Sue, you got Sue on.
That's what I said. Sue, welcome. It's very nice to have you aboard and look forward to working with you on the Utility Committee.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
And this time around, we're going to start with contracts. We're going to start off the meeting with contracts. Ramona has somewhere to be, and so she's going to go ahead and do our contracts first up, right?
Yes, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Just going through, we do have one resolution. That's the environmental compliance resolution, and Kelly Parrish will be making that presentation when she does the presentation, so she'll be explaining what that's about. We do have 4 other utility items. The first one that we have is a change order with Chara LLC. If you remember, the commission, and I believe this was presented to the Utility Committee as well, back in June of this year, we previously approved agreement with Chara to remove the solids from the processed water ponds, and those processed water ponds are what served Unit 3. Part of that reason for removing those solids was to complete pre-closure activities related to the byproduct storage area. However, once they got into doing that work, they determined that there was going to be an additional 2 feet of soil that would need to be removed around a section of railroad tracks, and that would be needed to be removed and then placed into the byproduct storage area. The change order will include the stripping of those slopes adjacent to the railroad tracks, and that basically equates to about over 20,000 cubic yards of material being moved to that on-site landfill. And then once that's done, they'll also have to stabilize those slopes by seeding that area. This is an additional cost of $358,861. That is included in Lakeland Electric's FY22 budget, and all the terms and conditions for the particular change order are in accordance with the agreement that the City Commission previously approved.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is
Member English.
the intent later on to remove the railroad altogether from the property?
Yeah, that's.
I know the elevation is there, but
That's our inclination, yes, to remove it.
totally. So deliveries or whatever to the plant that come by rail.
We don't. The only reason we left any of it is that we were thinking that the RICE engines might be able to use a part of it. But I don't think, Tori, correct me if I misspeak, but I don't think there's any use for the rails.
Well, right now, we're going to keep the rails because the plant needs it with the demolition of Unit 3 to be able to rail off the metal and to bring in the man engine.
I'm talking long term though.
Oh.
3 to 5 years out, is the rail going to be gone totally? Is that the intent?
That's our intent.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
There's no reason to keep it. We'd have to maintain it if we keep it there.
Yeah.
And we don't expect any traffic on it. There's no reason to have it there.
No future fuel cell need for something like that.
Fuel cell.
I'm bad.
We could build another track if we get fuel cell.
Okay. Nothing.
I have nothing that we know of unless, and we've talked with other city departments about other uses for that property. If one of those were to suggest that the road were to be of value before we take it out, then we could revisit it.
Good question. Any other question? Nope. I just thought I saw it.
No. You know, I always have one kind of brewing.
Okay. And there's a motion to approve and then a second from Commissioner Walker. Commissioner English made the motion, or Committee Member English made the motion. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
Okay, the next few items, contract items, all relate to the RICE project. As you've been told, you're going to be seeing a number of these contracts coming at future utility committee meetings and the commission. This first agreement is an agreement with Air Centers of Florida. This is for air equipment for the RICE project and includes 2 rotary air compressors, 2 heated air dryers, and 2 storage tanks, 1 wet, 1 dry, to supply continuous clean air. This is for the operation control and the protection of the RICE engines. The purchasing department went out for a bid and received 3 contractors submitted bids. One of those contractors was non-responsive, and when we say non-responsive, that means they didn't meet any of the specific specifications, so they were disqualified once they submitted their bid. But we had two other contractors. We have Atlas Copco Compressors LLC, which came in at a bid of $335,800, and Air Centers of Florida, which came in at $342,080. Once the bids were evaluated, Atlas, while it was the lowest, it contained some technical exceptions that actually, once staff looked at those, it actually resulted in a higher price, and they weren't able to meet the lead time that was required in our bid specification. Whereas ACF, once we got into reviewing the bid, it was determined that they could actually offer a smaller compressor at a lower cost price, and they were able to meet all the bid specifications. So ultimately, they did come in at a lower cost, and the total cost of their proposal was $334,971, which that is actually less expensive than Atlas by a little bit. So they were determined to be, at that point, the low bidder. The schedule for delivery would be December of 2022. Once that equipment is delivered, it'll then be installed by a general contractor, which we will go out for a separate bid and bring that for approval to the City Commission for that. Again, this is part of the budgeting for the RICE project, and that was funded through the city's bond issuance for this.
Move for approval.
Motion approved in a second. Discussion. Questions? I have one. The smaller compressor doesn't compromise the delivery specs at all?
No, sir. It was just one of those things that, based upon the air requirements that we have for the engines themselves and the size of the tanks that we have, and now with the addition of the second tank, we have enough capacity where we could allow us to go with the smaller compressors.
Good. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Also unanimously passes. Good work so far.
All right, the next item we have is an agreement with Technology International. This is for dry-type station service transformers, a total of 2 of those. These are required to support the RICE engine generators and carry the load for the RICE plant. We went out for a bid through our city's purchasing department in May. We had 2 bids that were submitted, and you'll see in the memo, if you're looking at that, there was a base bid price and then there was an option bid price. And upon evaluation, we looked at doing the option bid price for the 2 SSTs. This would include the design and manufacturing of them, and they would be delivered in June of 2023. Again, this is once they are delivered, they'll be installed by another contractor that will be procured through the competitive process, and then that would be brought to you for your approval as well. The TI will perform all the services in accordance with the city's bid specification documents and the conform specs that were prepared by Sargent and Lundy, our consulting engineer on the project. I will say during the process of negotiating this contract that
Let me find out and I'll call you back.
that there were some price increases from suppliers. So you will see that the original bid price was $305,680 that was submitted. But during that negotiation process of trying to finalize the agreement, that cost did rise, and it's now $338,000. That's still included in Lakeland Electric's budget for the RICE project, and which was funded through the bond issuance, and that $338,000 cost is still less than the other bidder that submitted its bid.
Move to approve.
Motion approved and a second.
Second.
And got from Commissioner Walker. SST is, just tell us what that does.
Station service transformer, it takes the 13.8 kV that comes in from our generator step-up transformer, which is the same voltage level that the generators will discharge at, and converts it to 480 volts. And then they'll supply that to the 480 volt bus for supports, battery chargers, control computers, just house services, things like that.
Any other questions? Of course, you could have answered that question.
That's why I jumped on it.
No,
I
that's right.
knew what it's for.
Here's our motion maker, Dan was in it. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Also unanimously passes.
All right, the last item that we have is an agreement with Zabit Engine Services. This is for the purchase of an emergency diesel generator for the Rice project. This diesel generator also has a fuel tank capacity of being able to operate for a 24-hour period, and it will provide backup power during power outages. We went out for bid back in May of 2022. Part of what this will entail will be the design, manufacturing, furnishing, assembly, and delivery of this emergency diesel generator. We had 3 bids that were received from contractors. Zabit Engine Services was the lowest, most responsive, responsible bidder at a bid price of $241,649.38. Upon your approval, it is scheduled for delivery in June 2023, and then again, once it's delivered, it'll be installed by a separate contractor, which will competitively procure, and again, that will come back before the City Commission for approval. The original bid price, however, was increased by just over $20,000. This was upon recommendation from Sargent & Lundy, our consulting engineer on the project, that wanted to include an optional fire detection system, which they recommended. And so that was added to the base bid for a total cost of $261,764.38. This project again, or this agreement, the services are included in the Rice Project funding, and which is obviously the bond issuance was issued for the payment of that.
Motion to approve. Approve. Second. Dan and Mike Mazik for the second. Then a question from Committee Member English.
Comment. Thanks for getting the fire protection on it. I mean, that 20 grand is cheap to protect something that big.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a good step. The other people that bid were Cat and Cummins, and then this is a
Generac.
Generac.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so I didn't know they stepped up that big.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good sized generator.
It is. The reason why we went with the Generac is obviously the response time and the price. The reason why we are putting the emergency diesel in there is the plant itself, even though currently we're not designed it to be a NERC Black Start plant, we have that ability in the future. If it ever changes, we can become a Black Start plant. But we will have Black Start capability with this. And so, like during a hurricane or something like that, we could start restoring the system from this unit. Right now, that's done by other diesels.
So it's going to be a standby similar to Winston, decent capacity?
Similar to Winston's emergency diesel generator.
Right.
Right. The Winston's being 2.5 megawatts each, this is only a 0.5 megawatt.
Yeah.
We can start all 6 of them, though.
Yeah, because the starting of the generators isn't dependent upon really electrical power. It's more you have your air and you have your batteries and your control system up. When you first, as long as the engines are at temperature, which we would keep them at temperature as much as possible. And even if they're not at temperature, it just slows that startup. And so you can't get them started. You'd start one, get the other ones warmed up, and then you would start the other ones.
Yes, Committee Member Trout.
Just a question of curiosity, and this is something that probably have to be unpacked more in a one-on-one meeting, maybe, Mike. But Sargent & Lundy, you hear that name often, consultant fee. I was curious, what kind of fees are they charging? Do we outlay for that service? Because this last instance, although they may be their weight and value in a lot of ways, you would wonder that one of your team members probably could catch the fact that you probably need a fire system on there as opposed to the consulting.
Well, if we did not have Sargent Lundy, I would think our current team members probably would with their experience. But Sargent Lundy has been on board from the beginning. They are the design engineer for this whole project. So they are, you hear their name a lot because they're the design engineer for the whole.
And just to add to that this we competitively procured Sargent and Lundy through that process at the very beginning of the project. So that's why when you see all of the RICE agreements come through that are for the project, you will see Sargent and Lundy as the consulting engineer on all these projects, because they are the engineer of record that we have used, and we have a specific contract with them for this particular project as well.
If you're interested in revisiting that cost that we had initially incurred, we can help you get back to that approval, and you can look at it if you want to look at that in more detail.
Alert. That's right.
Yes, actually, stop. Thanks, go ahead.
No, I was just saying he had a question.
Oh, okay, great.
In reference to what, I guess we're looking at, and I know what we had initially approved as an outlier, thank you, for the director, I'm sure, regarding the project and all, where are we? How does it, how are we stacking up? Because I know we had approved that X amount of dollars for contingency situations and that kind of thing, and things are moving along now. We're seeing it coming together. Things have been put in place, and we're looking, hopefully, what, every part of sometime next year, and looking at some things being somewhat at base. So, how are we doing dollar-wise?
We're actually doing pretty good considering the COVID and the supply chain issues that we've been having. Right now, I'm about $4.5 million into my $18 million contingency.
Okay.
I've had some extra add-airs. We had talked about it before about the extra silencers we had to add for the engines themselves. That was a big chunk of my contingency and the bid that I had for MAN. But MAN, we're getting really close to finishing all that scope and ending those change orders. Our underground contract, I'm about $1.5 million over what was projected. So that contract's coming in almost at $17 million, like you guys approved a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
My above ground contract, I guess I'm going to be about $5 or $6 million over that amount. Which will still keep me within there for. That's right. We've had some positive things where our switchgear has come in under budget, but things as simple as our sanitary lift station, which will be coming to you guys soon. The projected cost was $10,000, and the first quote came in at $112,000. And so we're having those supply chain issues, and the sad part, the worst part that's causing some of these issues is we're just not having people bid. When we came here with our pre-engineered metal building, we sent it out to sent it out to over 400 people. The very first time we got no bids.
Wow.
Okay, then we turned around and we sent it out again. We called people specifically. We had 5 people, yes, send it to us, we'll bid it. We got 1. Okay, and that cost was, we budgeted was $3.5 million, and it cost us $5.3 million. Okay, so we're seeing those things. But as far as our contingency and where we're at from things, I think we're going to utilize a lot of our contingency, which I was hoping to give money back. But I think we're going to end up using a lot of that. The good news is that with Sergeant Lundy and with our team and everything, we're doing a lot of things. We're correcting a lot of things from the past Lakeland Electric where they may have skimped corners and, hey, we don't want to do this, we want to save some money. We're building the plant long-term. We're putting in the systems that'll help support us. But to give you an example, one of the things we're looking at is for our the specialty tools that we have. We're buying, several $100,000 of specialty tools that we have to have. Well, we're going to set it up to where it has a system to where it already has the ability to be checked out and track and catalog and have it to where it's in its own storage place. And these are adders that wasn't included on the project that we intend to incorporate. So all in all, it's not a great sign. Gina wishes I would spend the money faster because of the bond issue and the time frame. But because of the supply chain issues, at one point, MAN, because of COVID, half their engineers were out sick with COVID. Wow. And so obviously, we lost time. Yeah. We're looking at, we're probably not going to make the end of 23. It's probably going to be the beginning of 24. We're trying to hold in on that. But with that, money-wise, I think we're going to be okay. And the next big cost is going to be the above-ground general contractor. We hope to see that going out on the streets in October. And then that should give us a good clue of where we're at, and we should be able to hone in on that.
But it had already been, I think, projected that we would probably look at somewhere around the beginning of 24 anyway, wasn't it?
It was. I was in denial, and I was trying to.
At least you admit it.
I was in denial. I thought that we could still do it, but there's unknowns out there. Obviously, after you build the plant, the biggest thing that'll bite or kill a startup of a plant is the flushes. And so we have a lot of flushes due. I mean, the cooling water systems, I keep saying I don't mean I. We have 12 different cooling water systems that have to flush. We have the 6 different lube oil systems that have to flush before we ever start up the engines. And if the contractors do their job and due diligence, that'll make or break the project in the end. I've been at plant sites to where when we built Hines, when I worked for Progress Energy, we spent a month doing a lube oil flush, and they budgeted 2 weeks. And a month into it, it's like, well, there's nothing you can do. You can't do anything about it. You have to do that. So, I mean, other things that we have that you guys will be seeing coming besides, we have some miscellaneous, duct banks, and we're still talking with our insurance brokers about the fire system. They're stating that we need to have a sprinkler system, and all the documentation says we don't, but that could be a huge change. We've had to do some modifications to the crane because of the temperature. Even the air compressors that we just talked about, we have to place those outside because the turbine hall is too hot for them, and they can't operate in that environment. But just going through all those items, we still have. I have roughly 30,000 gallons of glycol I have to buy. That's at $6 or $7 a gallon. I have 50,000 gallons of oil at about $10 a gallon that I have to buy, and so we still have some hurdles to come to, and all that stuff has to be quoted in bid. So, like I said, unfortunately, we're going to have to use our contingency, but the good news is we planned that contingency, and I think it's going to cover everything we need accordingly with all the other stuff that we need to do.
That's good to hear, because I know the public wants to hear too as well. How we doing and how we stay within that contingency amount of 18 million, and hopefully, like you just said, we stay within it. You want to give some back, but may not be able to give anything, but maybe some at all, We'll see how it goes. Now, next question I have is here for Mr. Beckham. Mr. Beckham, are we going to have all that scrap, I call it, all that from Unit 3 and all that kind of stuff? Is that going to be all done away with eventually? How? Because I know when we were out there with the groundbreaking, we still saw all that stuff, so that's got to be cleared out.
That's part of the demolition contract.
Yeah,
is to
that
take
got to be done
off.
before we even get to this point of having licenses.
That will all be gone, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought it would have to be.
Yeah, I mean, after the meeting here, I got a video I'll show you. The area that we were standing at for the groundbreaking looks a lot different. It's more like a flat field right now.
Okay.
They've moved a lot of dirt. The scrap that you're talking about around the cooling towers and stuff, they're hauling it off daily. I mean, truckloads of it. So to Mike's point, it's all part of the process. Obviously, the scrapper, he's going to hold on. If he thinks that the scrap price is going to go up a penny tomorrow, he's going to hold on to it and sell it tomorrow. Yeah. But they are working towards it. The cooling tower basin for Unit 3 is almost completely empty. They're picking up the scrap by Unit 2. They're starting to tear down the precipitator. We laugh. We have a stairway to heaven right now. If you drive by there where the fly ash silo was at next to the road, it's a staircase that goes nowhere. So and it's standing there by itself and nobody for a while. So they are working through that.
If you were concerned about any component that would not be here on a supply chain side the most, what would that be?
I'm still, with all the shipments that we got coming across the ocean, our stack anchor bolts sat off the coast of Savannah for almost 3 weeks in a container on a Maersk ship waiting to pull into port. So now, right now, we're waiting for them to get to Jacksonville by rail and to get them on site. So all the shipments that we got coming across the ocean is the biggest thing, and, you know, the cost influence from that. The engines themselves, you know, where our FAT now is scheduled for December. The issue that they were having, I mean, the good news is that of our exact configuration of engine, there are 24 engines going in other locations, 12 in Brazil, 12 in Oman, our exact configuration. That's all good news, that they'll be commissioned and in commercial operations before we ever start up. So just get that stuff to site is probably my biggest worry. That and some little thing that you don't think about, and like a sanitary lift station that you've been trying to order for 4 months and you still don't even have a quota, you know, because of the way the process works. It's like, granted, I could just tape off the toilet area and say, you know, there's a porta potty, but
Yeah, that one probably has a workaround available. All right, any other questions? All right, let's see, so, was that a vote?
I don't think you voted, John.
All right, so all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same, unanimously passes. Okay.
All right.
We are now ready for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ramona.
Thanks very much.
thanks, Ramona.
So for this utility committee, for the main part of the agenda, it's going to be all about bills, all about power bills. So we're going to have Corey Bush, Customer Service, go through a bill or two, and thank you, David, go through a bill or two and some specifics about why they're higher now and kind of help everybody unpack it and understand it, because we know you all are getting a lot of questions, happen to be getting a lot of questions from constituents, and we all are. We're seeing the comments on Facebook and other places, so we kind of want to unpack that and just have a discussion so everybody can ask questions and we can all at least be on the same page and understanding why bills are going up. I think we kind of intrinsically know, but we want to unpack that a little bit. Leading up to that, we have 3 presentations, short presentations that all have something to do with bills. Catherine has a public power moment. Catherine Lacey has a public power moment video that is going to talk about our dividend or our payment in lieu of taxes. That is a good thing because we have a municipal utility, so we are able to put money back into the city and help fund not only Lakeland Electric, but the rest of the city. So that's a good thing. We're not sending money to stockholders. We're putting money back into our city. And then we have an environmental charge that we need to talk about. It gets adjusted once a year. Kelly Parrish is going to talk about that. She's in there. There you are. Thank goodness. Kelly Parrish is going to talk about that. She's our manager of rates and forecasting and rates. I think it's the other way around. Yep. So Kelly's going to make that presentation, and then Tori, you all know, is going to come back. She's going to talk to us about the latest on fuels. Yeah, well, she's going to talk about the latest on fuels, and then Corey Bush, AGM Customer Service, is going to do a presentation on the bills. So without further ado, Catherine, we'll go ahead and look at the video.
So while she pulls this up, we were going back and looking at our KSI meetings that we do quarterly with our employees, and there we go. Hold it for a second. Yeah. Perfect. And we were reviewing how we were doing that process and what we were talking about, what questions we were answering. And one of the things we thought was, normally we just go and dive right into the questions and the statistics, but we don't look at the overall picture of why are we here and why are we doing this. And so we started doing these videos at our quarterly meetings, and we wanted to bring them here to just remind us all of the greater impact of public power. So we lost our audio. That's okay.
We'll try this again. Audio's on.
We'll just imagine fun music while you watch.
I found it.
There's no words.
Found it.
So.
There you go.
Oh, jeez.
Nice.
Good job.
All right. Thank you.
All right, so Kelly Parrish is going to talk about our environmental charge.
Good morning, I'm Kelly Parrish, Manager of Forecasting and Rates, as Mike said, and we'll get right into it. Staff does recommend that we are going to reduce the environmental cost compliance charge by about 16% for FY24. It's going to go from $2.87 down to $2.40 per megawatt hour. What we call the EC3 charge is not included in any other rates and is to cover the cost of complying with environmental regulations. The environmental rate is a separate line item on the bill, which Corey will get into later. And for an average residential customer using 1,200 kilowatt hours per month, they will see a reduction of 55 cents. So it's not a big amount, but it is going down. We do true this up every fiscal year. We haven't had a change in the last couple of years because the expenses have been pretty much the same. But we are in an over recovery this year, and our bond debt service expenses are going down for next year. So the rate does include the budget for the storage of the byproduct storage area, also known as the landfill, which we talked about. That's located at McIntosh Plant, and that is a 2-year project that's going to take place in FY23 and FY24. So this new rate has been applied to our budget and will be effective October 1st of this year.
Director?
Any
Any
questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Commissioner Mann.
Thank you. So I know, years ago when we would talk about this, you're kind of like, what is this? But, I think everyone understands that you've got EPA guidelines and regulations that you have to follow, and they're expensive. And, you can imagine even going into a greener future that those could become more mandates and more onerous. But it's nice to see that even, as we are complying with some of those things, that it's able to be reduced a little bit. But I'm curious if we had not had this, in my mind, this is a line item that's been invested, and that's how we're able to do just what you said with the landfill mitigation. So how long have we been collecting this particular piece off of our bill? And then how would you say as a percentage, or how impactful has this been as we've transitioned away from coal to the new man engines, in giving us a little bit of a cushion to be able to make some of these forward movements in a cleaner
So
energy?
the first time this was implemented, from what I found, was in 2007, and it's quite common in the industry that people recover this. It is considered like the fuel. It's like a pass-through, so it's based on our actual costs.
Okay.
We do anticipate it will go down after the byproduct area is closed. That's a very expensive project. And you can see there's a lot of additional costs associated with that, with things that have to go on. So I think the total project cost for that is about $18 million. So in a couple years, we're going to see a dramatic reduction. But right now, that cost is in there, as well as chemical costs and permitting fees and things like that we'll always have with some of the units, but they have gone down significantly with Unit 3 being gone. There's a lot of chemical and environmental stuff with that. So.
That's a reduction that we know about, but to your point, who knows what may be coming down the pipe for future environmental. So that's the reason we revisit it every year. So as those things play out, if they do, then we would have to factor that into this rate.
Well, and it just speaks to the iterative approach that we've taken at Lakeland Electric to not go crazy with, some of these green initiatives, but to always make sure we're positioning ourselves
Yes.
in case, we are ever mandated.
And being on the right side of that curve.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments?
One other,
Committee Member Troutman, go ahead.
besides the potential threat of mandates, are there any other initiatives or incentives that push you guys to want to find ways to lower costs in this particular line item?
Well, obviously, we're always going to be aware of what's coming, as long as we know legislation can change any time, so that will obviously affect us. And it just depends on what happens, in the White House and locally in Florida. So we don't know of anything major. I don't know if Sean or anybody knows of, nobody knows of anything major. So I know we're looking at, more solar and stuff like that, but we'll do that as a purchase power agreement. So we won't even be, operating those units, so.
We're always interested in keeping costs as low as we can, but with environmental issues, and Sean could speak very well to this, but with environmental issues, we often go with someone who is tried and true, already on contract, but it's very important to get these environmental things correct, because you could cost yourself a lot more money down the line if you don't. So we typically go with people that we know, but we would bid things out if there was something that lend itself to being bid out, we would bid it out and try to get the best price on it. We certainly are focused on cost, but with this, like safety, and it's you must comply and you must be on top of this and get it right.
Commissioner Manager.
Just a rounding comment, Ashley, just if you think about like when we implemented a stormwater fee, kind of a usage fee for everyone to kind of share the cost of mitigating, pollution in our lakes and stormwater runoff in our lakes. Same kind of thing. I mean, we're mandated, by the EPA, they check our lakes to see what condition they're in, and we have to show iterative progress towards cleaning those lakes. And it's easier if we have an actual fee that's going in as a line item going into those and making sure we're making some progress on those projects. Versus like even the Bonnet Springs, when we built the park, all of a sudden it's a lake that's not on our plan and we need to go and get a grant, for millions and millions of dollars. So, anytime that you have regulations coming from the federal government, to not plan at all or just to put your head in the sand is not a really good strategy. So the balance of saving costs, but also mitigating a huge cost later on. I give credit to our team to really be proactive in that. Yep.
You bet. Excellent summary.
Keep calling on Sean. I guess you guys know who Sean is. But Sean McGinnis is one of our environmental experts. He's more of our land, I guess you'd say, land and water person. Ed and Batik is our air person, although they interchange. But in case you haven't run into Sean before, that's who Sean is, that we keep throwing his name out there.
That makes you relaxed, doesn't it?
Don't ask me anything about science.
It's a completely different.
I'm going to point to the other shot as well.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
Good job.
No, there isn't anything on this one
No.
to vote on. It's just done. In fact, that you have that in place. Correct. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, so
Is Corey next, I'm saying?
Tori.
Oh, Tori's
Yeah. Tori with the T. Corey with a K. Is that
How big is your crystal ball?
So I'm quick on bark orders. Becoming a regular, huh?
Maybe I'll go.
I wanted to give a brief market update. And what we're trying to do is, we're using the arrow method now, thanks to Mr. Beckham. That's a good idea to kind of help you. So like if it's red, that would mean that the tendency would be to increase natural gas. If it's yellow, it would bring it down some, and if it's green, it's going to reduce it more, okay? So we understand what the little arrows are. So right now, when it says average cooling degree days, that's anything over 65% Fahrenheit, people have the tendency to consume more energy, okay? So what we're still seeing is a warm winter, okay? So meaning September, what I'm looking at for forecast reading out there is, last year we had like 207 cooling degree days, and they're forecasting 220, so it's still going to be hotter by about 6.2%, so that would mean people are going to use more AC, consume more energy. Right now, gas storage is still low. We're at 2.6 BCF, which is 7.9% lower than last year. So this year's storage is still lower. And it's almost 11.3 lower than the 5-year average. So when the market sees low inventories, we're in what we call injection season. We're trying to put as much gas in the storage so when the winter comes, we can withdraw it. So when the market doesn't think we're going to have enough storage for the winter, it tends to drive prices up. when I came and I talked to you last month in August, I said, we had a new thing called the basis differential. We had never seen where we look at a forward curve, we see our price of gas, but we ended up paying $5 over the indexes, okay? That's because we'd had the Transco and the Sonat pipeline constraints over the main arteries bringing gas to the Florida market. So that finally constraint came off in September 1st, so yay. I'm still seeing a basis differential, but it's only about 88 cents versus $5. And to kind of give you how that affects us, if I had like 2.4 million MMBTUs and you times it times 5, that would mean I would increase our fuel cost by $12 million. So at 89 cents is only, giving us like 1.89% increase. So that's a positive. We know that September's price of gas will come down because I'm going to have to pay that premium. We're seeing more increases in the gas rigs and the Permian and Haynesville, so that's good. There's more supply out there. And the main Fremont LNG, liquid natural gas, who had been exporting a lot of our supply, is still offline to the end of November. So that gives the ability to be more gas available that will hopefully be able to build up the natural gas storage. So prices for September will be lower than August, but they're still, like, my base load cost is $10. So it's still not, we're not in the $3 range, guys, but we are coming down. So that's positive. So that's where I see the market right now. And if the winter stays warmer that they're projecting, that will mean that as the winter months comes, like October, November, December, around the country, there'll be less consumption, so there could be a tendency to drop the prices. But if we get a cold winter, then of course it's going to ramp them up. But we'll know more in the next month as we get closer to the end of injection season. We can go to the next slide.
Real quick, Tori, how long does it take for us to see the result of increased production? Like if the rigs are pumping more and getting more, how long does it take for it to be there for you to see a dip in the price of that?
Well, what happens is every week the EIA sends out a report that shows what the storage is and how much it affected it. Because they also have to show a report that says, okay, here's the country's demand, here is how much we consume, to say, so we know weekly.
Okay, so it's
report cards weekly, and that's why I said, when the market, everybody waits to see that. And that's what happened, like, we had 61 BCF increase, so I saw the market come down. So if we keep seeing, we're able to have, if we're having our supply greater than demand usage, when we're building up the inventory in the month of September, we're going to see prices come down.
Good spot, okay.
But that's why I said I look at it every week.
Okay, thank you.
So I have the appropriation that Mike Brosart talked about on the City Commission agenda meeting. I just wanted to kind of go over this. So when I put the budget together, it would have been April 2021. And at that time, the price of gas was about $3.47, okay? We now know it's not $3.47. But if I take the price of gas from October all the way, I'm estimating to, September, 12 months, our weighted cost would be $7.07, okay? But our budget, when I built it, I originally built it at about $122 million. And you can see that we really are going to spend about $242 million. It's more than doubled, okay? And it doubled because of the price of natural gas. But because we have the hedging program, we know, and when I put this together, it was an estimate because the market didn't close until Monday, so it's really 62.8 million now, so it went up a little more. But this, by getting the money back from the hedging program, it reduces our net budget to 179, okay? Had we not had this hedging program, our weighted cost would have been 72.67 versus 53.82. So the hedges has really been instrumental in keeping our fuel costs down. And when you're looking at this figure, 57.6, most of this is for August and September. September was a hell of a month because, like I said, we had that $5 basis differential. I'm projecting, remember the books aren't closed, but I'm thinking we spent almost $38 million in 1 month. And to put in perspective, last year in August, I spent 14. And I know when the city treasurer calls and says, Tori, I said, is it going to be that high next month? And I said, well, it should come down some. And I know that this is a two-figure because the hedge program for September closed, like I said, at the end of August. So I know that I've got that money in the bank. But it's just, we're very thankful to have the hedging program because, you know, like I said, this is almost represents close to just 2 months of our expense. It's very expensive. So it was a good move. I know it's hard for the ratepayer, the 75, but if we go to the next slide, I think this will help. This is an overview of fiscal year 22. So it's October 21, and then, of course, August and September are estimates. That's why this blue line right here, I put light because that's the estimate. Books aren't closed. So the blue line represents what our costs would have been did we not have the hedging program. The green line is the net cost with the hedging program, and the black line just shows you this was our fuel rate. We had kept it at 40, then we raised it to 60 for July and August, and then it goes to 75 in September. But even in July and August, that $60 rate, we were still under recovering because it wasn't enough to cover it. We just started seeing, right when the war hit, right about these months is when we started just seeing the spike in our prices of fuel. And so that's where I came up with the 7267 to 53 I showed in the preparation. So on the next slide here, right now we are, as of July, we've got about 12.5 million. I'm still projecting to under recover for August because the $60 rate, we're still going to under recover about 3.6, so we're going to come down. But once the new rate comes in effect, we'll start the incline. So that's where we're sitting right now. So I'm not making, any recommend, just keep where we are, hold steady. And if, when I come back the next month, if we'll be able to have a bigger picture now with Transco being offline and how storage is, and if prices do come down, then, there might be opportunity to lower some. But right now, if we did, we would continue to under-recover. Because if you go back to the slide, you can see, we're still there. So that's all I have. Are there any questions that I can?
Any other questions, Commissioner Mann?
Thank you. Okay, so we did actually experience a fuel rate increase for July and August. So when people did notice an increase, because in my mind I was thinking that the actual increase was started September 1st. So that they were just high, but not.
We went from 40 to 60 that was effective July and August.
Okay,
And then the
so
75
so what they've already experienced some of that. So it won't be as dramatic this month.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way I understand.
So I needed to clear that up in my own head because I was incorrect on that.
That was after the comment I was about to make. I think between staff's recommendation and your approval, I think we actually hit a decent, I won't say nice, because none of this is nice, but we hit a kind of a good balance there with taking it up, and to your point about doing things iteratively earlier. We kind of did a good, I think everybody together did a good job of easing it up. We got 2 months, and August ended up being at 60 instead of 75, and that hopefully helped a little bit because it's still a really hot, high demand month. And then now when we get into September's still hot, but hopefully we've kind of done as good a job as could have been done between balancing those things out and easing into this increase, which with some cooler weather and some of those easing pressures that Tori talked about could bring things back down. And it's nice to see that turn up in collection and the reserve there during September. So it looks like we've kind of, caught things and stabilized for now. Things are still very volatile. I hear everybody talking about gas. You talk about going up or down, and most people just like to say it's very volatile. Which way?
Safety. It's a safe word, yeah.
Committee Member English.
Use your big crystal ball now, girl. We've started looks like in September to trend upward in our reserve. Last slide. Last slide.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the next one. There's a lot. So we'll,
You know, we're still not even halfway to what our reserve should be by vote of the city commission.
correct.
So we're still not in good stead from a reserve standpoint. If we get some high volatility or some craziness happens, we're still not going to be in good shape, to me. When I first joined, we talked about 20 million, but based on the volume and everything else, now we're at 30 million as a total overall reserve. You know, even if your fuel costs begin to decline, I'm feeling we still need to stay to get close to a margin relatively close to the $30 million reserve. Just as a comment, because I don't want to see the high volatility bump us way down again, and then we have to start digging into some other funds other than the fuel reserve.
No, I'm with you. We still have good low hedges on. That's going to help us. Just like, go back to the other slide.
Yeah. But the hedges are beginning to run out.
Right.
Because the prices are going so high.
But right now, we are still 75% hedged for October, November, December, okay? And then it goes down to 50. So the next 3 months, we'll still have a good ability to have the hedging costs and bring our costs down. If things go where I think they will, we'll start, recovering maybe like 3 million for September, October. So we'll start bumping it up, okay? What's going to hurt us if, right now, there's a winter premium, okay, meaning December, January, and February. Those costs right now are very high, so like our fuel rate would be about 80. But from October, November, December, there'll be under, like, I'm estimating for like October will be maybe around 65, so at 75, we're going to build it up.
Right.
So I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable with the hedging program giving us the time to get back to at least the 20 million reserves, so we won't be so skinny.
Yeah.
So it was a good decision to make that 75.
My point is, I know that we're using a lot of energy right now.
Right.
Because of the air conditioning, because of the heat. But as that begins to change over to needing cold temperatures and you're going to need heat, if we start immediately moving that 75 back down to 60.
Oh, no, it can't go to 60.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And I'm saying we need to be probably at 75 to the next quarter, all the way through the next quarter, just to get up to a 20 million, 22 million, 25 million reserve where we need to be at 30, before we look at changing it to diminish that 75 number.
I will not, right now, I'm not recommending to change the fuel rate.
Okay.
Until I have a better idea, if I see where costs are in September, October, November, December,
That was really kind of my point. I think we've hit a point of stability right now where we can ride and see where things go with weather that's, I won't even say cooling, but moderating a little bit. So the usage should come down and people's bills should come back a little more under control. There's a projection that, everything's warming up. There's a projection that the winter will be warmer than it has been in the past. So the peaks in the winter may be smaller. We set a new summer peak this year, which is really unusual. Wow. So, we won't be coming back. I don't foresee us coming back anytime soon and saying we want to back off of the 75 until we get the reserve back up to where it needs to be. Right. Because with that volatility, we need to be prepared to ride through whatever else might come.
If it hits hard, that volatility is going to kill your reserves.
Yeah, and we are, believe it or not, a winter peaking utility. So January and February,
We have been a winter peak.
Yes. Yes, this year.
All over the place,
Well,
changing world.
And two, when we talk about the reserve at $20 million, there's a threshold of acceptance, I would say, on the commission side and utility side, committee side for that. 30 is a great reserve, but we want to stay in that 20 million arena.
And right now, the forward curves are still showing in April that, the price of gas coming down during that time. We've got us kind of going up for the winter and then tapering down. So, but
And a
it's
time to
subject to
build,
change.
and a time to build reserve is not when prices are up,
No, thanks for the crystal ball.
Remember, Dan, go ahead.
You mentioned it in the forward reserve look. So in April, May, what, if it does stay warm, what do they look like in a dollar sense relative to today? Are you seeing something that drops back down into the 70s again, or?
The 70 fuel rate or?
Well, yeah, as you're looking at like the Henry Hub and the futures, what does that number look like when we get out to April?
Well, I mean, the fuel, like, I'm seeing like, right now, I would think we would be at $10 gas for like January, February, March, and then it seems to go down to $5. I mean, it's been a real sharp, it's not just a couple dollars off, but it's subject to change, that, it's all, when I go back to the first slide, it's all in those things that I showed you. How is the storage? Where is the, because that drives it. If the LNG facilities all of a sudden start ramping up and we start exporting more out and there's less and our storage goes up, price goes up. But there are some positive things, like next year, when I was reading, there's some other generation coming on, some up in the Carolinas, nuclear, so they won't be using as much gas, so there would be more coming down the Transco. We had a problem this year with the railroads with coal to gas switching up in the Carolinas, so we might not have all that. And then not having the pipeline constraint where they did a maintenance, so there's a lot of things, and that's why you're seeing the forward curve down, because that's what the market's seeing. We're all reading the same thing, but if any of those variables change and they think all of a sudden that, then it changes it, so.
Yeah, I was just curious about the forward look.
Yeah, so everything is more of an upward until about, it tapers off right about March and April. And those are what we call the shorter months, because here in Florida, it's nice.
Other questions? All right, so we don't have an approval or anything on this?
No, just
Okay. Thank you, Tori.
Good report.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about bills now. And Corey Bush, our AGM Customer Service, lead us through a presentation, and you can ask anything you ever wanted to ask about our bills. Yours or anybody else's.
Correct. So I'm Corey Bush. I'm the Assistant General Manager of Customer Service, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. My first presentation to you guys. Couldn't have picked a better time to come into this role with fuels and everything else that's going on. It's a good place to be following Kelly and Tori, because they lay the foundation for what I'm fixing to show you guys. It kind of tapers down. You guys will get to see a little bit of the end result. We'll go ahead to the first slide. A little bit of what I want to do is give you guys a bill explanation and a breakdown. So what are you looking at? What's the customer supposed to be looking at? And then I also want to point to a lot of tools that I feel like our customer base misses out on. Some ideas, how to get this message out, because we got a lot of things at your fingertips and a lot of information that we offer as a utility that will help you watch your consumption hourly by hourly, hour by hour if you like. What's a customer charge? So we've gotten inundated, just as a lot of the commissioners have, with questions. Mr. Mudd sends stuff over regularly of, hey, what's this mean? What's this mean? What's this mean? So I want to cover a lot of that. Customer charge is definitely one of those. What services do we bill for? It's not Lakeland Electric, getting Lakeland Electric reads and billing for Lakeland Electric. There's a lot that goes on that 8th floor over there with my group, and they do a fantastic job of making sure we get accurate information and accurate bills out for a wide variety of other services. So I'll show you that too. Why is my bill so high? Part of that explanation, and then I'll show you the other side of that as well. What impacts it do the increases have? So I'm taking the fuel rate, I'm taking the customer, I'm showing you some different angles on your bill. 33-day reads have come up. One of my thorns and one of my initiatives when I came into this job to help out in that area. I'll explain a little bit of that. That's quite a complicated topic. And then the third-year pricing, what's that mean? And then at the end, I got a brief rate comparison showing our customer charge compared to others. So real quick, while I've got this slide up, our customer charge, which is, you guys each have a copy of this bill, that's going to be your first line on there. Now, what does that mean? That's exactly what, if you had zero consumption for the month, that's what Lakeland Electric's going to bill you is $11. Now, what's that $11 break down into?
Where is it?
Sorry, where am I looking?
The separate page.
Let's go to this part right here, below the graph, line 1, customer charge.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, folks. Get a little ahead of myself sometimes.
And you live in it, see?
I do, yes, that's correct. That's a great example. So the billing and collecting is exactly that. That's the cost that every customer pays for that, my staff to go in and make sure you're accurately getting a bill each month. Conservation charge, that's a charge that Lakeland Electric puts on there. It helps us promote energy conservation from customers, which actually, if you're buying, energy-saving equipment at your house, it helps us curb peak at your house. So we're going to give you some rebate money and some different things we do with those programs. It's a great program. We've done a lot of modifications to that this year, and so it's been really good for us. Meter charge, that's exactly what it is. That's the physical meter charge that we pass on, and then, of course, the reading of those meters. We are in the electric department fully AMI deployed, so that's the software programs, all the analytics that come with it. We get a ton of data. I'm going to be able to show you a little bit of that because I want to make sure we are passing on that message to you guys and to our customers. You've got a lot of tools at your fingertips through our AMI, through our smart meter program. I'm going to talk a little bit about a few different things. If you have any questions, you can ask me when you have them or at the end, whatever you want to do. I'm going to go into a little bit of the weather pattern and what we've been experiencing. Yeah. Next one, what do you see on your bill? These are going to be what you're looking at below that graph, this part right here. And that's what everybody incurs. It's pretty interesting that we talked today about the customer charge I just explained. We talked today about the environmental charge. Got a good explanation from Kelly on that. Fuel charge, we're all very familiar with that. Utility surcharge, gross receipts tax. There's, of course, everybody gets their hands in the tax game, and then there's a tax for LE and for LE and for water. Now, on the other side of that bill, depending on where you live, if you're in city limits, if you're in Polk City, if you're in the county, we bill for those services too. So you'll see recycling, stormwater, wastewater. City of Lakeland Water, you see it. Polk City has an electric tax and a franchise fee. You won't see it reflected on this bill. There was too many examples to show, but that is on there. Bills were redesigned in 2019 going into 2020. We've given you a pretty simplistic view of your consumption and what your bill entails. There's some good information there, but that design was to point customers right to our website. Go in there, create your login. If you're not on eBill, get in there, sign up, and do those things, and you'll really get a whole lot more information than that bill does. We give you a nice 12-month graph. It's a good visual, and I think it's pretty clean, but there's so much more information in there, and that was, like I said, that was absolutely by design to point right to that. So let's get into the meat of it. It's been hot. This is a tweet from the National Weather Service at Tampa. Excuse me. This is from Tuesday of this week, and it talks about record temperatures. You probably won't have it because it's a stacked slide. But it talks about the record days above 95 for the highs and record days above 80 for the lows. Next. It talks about the warm days, potential warm average temperature records in August for 3 consecutive months. Next. Here's a little bit of a breakdown. You can see the average temperatures for August this year. They haven't updated this, but you can see for the average high temp, I think we were tied for 4th or whatever. The next one's pretty telling too because it combines a couple months. Next one. I'm just going to kind of blow through these a little bit. It's just telling you it's hot. I don't think that's a secret. Mike mentioned the peak we had in June 15th of this year. That was our summer peak, our all-time summer peak, and that peak was at 4:54 in the afternoon, 716 megawatts. Now, our winter peak and our summer peak are different. Our winter peak, our all-time is higher than that. But it was 95 degrees on that day, and I think it's evident. We all know our bills, our consumption's higher. Now, the gas doesn't help, but there is a correlation between the two. So, next slide. So this gets into the bill. I want to break down a little bit of what you're looking at. This is actually my bill. You guys are seeing the meat and potatoes of what we all experience. I'm a customer as well. I live off 540. I'm electric, city water, county sewer. So you'll see that reflected there. Next slide. This is a pop out. I like this. This is a nice, I guess it's a bill ring we call it, but it breaks down depending on where you live. If you get into tiers, it'll break down your tiers you were in. We'll talk about tiers in a minute. But it shows what percentage of mine is my electric, what percentage of my bill is my water, and the other service, of course, from my bill is the sewer. What I think, and I know this, I've had discussions with customers either by email, by phone, running into them at Publix. They're looking at this.
Right, that's your electric bill.
That's not my electric bill. That's my electric bill. Beautiful.
Right.
So, could it be lower? Yeah. I mean, we all wish it could be. But I also like air conditioning and hot showers and all that stuff. So, it's the price we all pay. Yeah. So, next slide. That's going to do your graph. Like I said, a nice clean explanation of what's going on. Number of days metered. So if you are a customer, if you have a customer, if you have somebody that's concerned what meter cycle they're on or how many days they were in for, it's right there. We show your current month, we show your previous month, and then we show how that compares to last year. Now, I will say that we're billing you on credit. You are using things and using energy. We're going to read that meter and we're going to bill you for what you've already used. So on a May bill, that's April consumption. On a June bill, that's May consumption. So just to make sure we're all on the same page there. And then you see where it broke down. It breaks down my charge and then what I'm charged per tier. And then you've got all of those others added into it. So next. This is one of the tools I want to make sure you guys are aware of. This is actually in our energy tool set on our website. You won't have a slide. It's a stacked slide. But this was my 30-day, 29-day consumption for that bill you just saw. You can see I had a nice day there, a nice day there, and a nice day there. Not sure what was going on. This is easy to pull up. Anybody can access this, and it gives you a lot of information. I like it because it shows me when I went to Tier 2 and when I went to Tier 3. Other than that, you can go and actually click on the day, and I think I picked the 21st. So the next slide will be that day, and that shows my hourly consumption. So you can see on that particular day, at that particular hour, it was 5.7 kilowatts, and it's a rolling 24-hour clock. My wife yes, ma'am, go ahead.
And that's what we can find on the website.
Yes.
When we go into our,
Right.
okay, cool.
Go in there, that energy tool set, it'll pull up a 12-month average, or your 12-month graph. You click on the month, it'll pull up the days, and you click on it again, it'll pull up the hours.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's great. The only thing that I'm gonna struggle with will be the memory, because if I'm behind, I'm looking at what I've already used. So to go back and say, man, why on earth did I trigger that on that particular day? I mean, the data's there, but I think I'd have to probably do it continuously to see if I have a cycle of why there's.
So you can go in there for yesterday's data if you like.
Okay, so you can do it live.
Absolutely.
Oh, it is. Okay.
That's our AMI program.
Okay,
I mean, that thing is taking the information.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that is live. Okay.
There's a lot of tools there. My wife works from home. And so she's on the computer, we had dogs, and the air conditioner's running. But one trend I did see, because I looked at, I didn't include it, but on the peak day, even that peak day, my air condition, and Catherine, we were having this discussion the other day too, my air condition has to work just a little bit more. So it may be a just a little bit, but that adds up day after day after day. If it's at 74, 76, to keep her comfortable at home, which we all want. But it is noticeable if the temperatures are there. Yes, sir.
If I was to call in, could I get a cooling degree day chart past and current on a monthly or daily basis?
A cooling degree, like a weather.
Yeah, it's a measure of temperature is how it changes. It's kind of like that, but it gives you, it's more of a detailed number. So when you want to track down your use per degree day, we use that a lot in the north when you have a lot of heating.
Right.
And so if you want to take a look at explaining, okay, what's the winter doing?
Yeah.
How many cooling degree days have you, or how many heating degree days did you have in a specific period of time?
I can guarantee you we've got that number somewhere.
I'll bet you do, because that's probably.
This for general use.
General use,
This is an average. If you look, this would probably say 90 or 92, because from midnight to midnight, it was 95 to 85 or whatever it would have been that day.
Yeah, most people wouldn't understand the use of degree days.
That's pretty detailed information.
Yeah,
but
after 44 years, I'm a nerd, so.
I understand completely. Let me catch up here.
Well, as you look at that,
You do keep it?
well, I mean, it's close on a user basis.
Well, yeah, I guess because I'm a numbers nerd. I'll just look at, okay, how did my use per degree days, because that lets me look back and say, okay, I made an investment in my house. How did that investment pay off on my usage?
Exactly.
Was it efficient?
Yeah.
And even though it was hotter, is my investment working? I'm too much of a numbers nerd, sorry.
No, I get it.
That's a good thing.
And I welcome that when you're getting folks that are spending a lot of money on solar and some of the efficiencies, they are absolutely wanting to bow down into to make sure they're getting their ROI. So absolutely. Next slide. So this is, I went back to May to show you guys a little depiction. This gets kind of redundant. If it does, forgive me, but I thought it was important because in May, I was only in Tier 2. Never made it to Tier 3. You see here I was at 165, and then of course the good old sewer charge here never changes, but I apparently watered a lot that month. Keep the grass green, I guess, but that's my April consumption May bill. Go to the next one. This is the graph for that. We had some higher day tier, made it Tier 2. Go to the next slide. This is going to be my June. Of course, a little bit more as we're increasing. It's getting hotter. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, on that.
No, you're good.
Actually, on this one, where it has electric yellow, the 1,000 kilowatt hour. So what's Tier 1, what are the tiers of this color?
So the way we tier our pricing is 0 to 1,000 kilowatt hours. Okay, that is priced.
Those are the three levels.
We charge you 0.05099 at that number. Then from 1,000 to 1,500, we're charging you a little bit more, 0.05819.
That's the second tier?
That's the second tier, yes, ma'am.
And then blue is the third?
And then blue is the
I'm
third.
real simple, I just need the color.
No, it's good. Blue's the third one. That's anything over 1,500
Got it.
kilowatt hours.
Thank you.
And I've got a great slide. I'll show you a comparison between those tiers because it often gets questioned. Everybody sees, oh, I'm in Tier 3. What does that mean? So, yes, sir.
How often do you guys reevaluate the tiers? Because, say, like different family sizes, if you just one or two people, it's easy to stay under 1,500 tiers or 1,500 kilowatt hours. But if you got a family of 4 or 6, you're almost always up.
So I will say this, I'm going to pass that question to Kelly for the how often, but I will say we've got several different programs that we will bill you on if you want to look at it. We've got, I don't know how many different ways to if you want to curb your usage, we'll bill you one way. If you want to, this is the general way. It doesn't benefit me to go on another billing type, and we can explain all that at another time. But we have a lot of different options.
Yeah, and to that note, if you go onto the website, you can compare the time of use, the demand rate, and the
Thank you. I was
regular residential
catching a
rate
brain fart
that
there,
are on
so-
there. Typically, we do a rate study about every 3 years, and we are starting that process now. Our last rate study was in 2018, so obviously, we have an inclining block structure is what they call that, and that is to encourage people to conserve energy. All of the rates are based on our actual costs and the demand on the system, so that's why we have that, inclining block is to help people reduce the demand. But yes, the website does have that tool to compare rates as well.
What was it before, tiers before?
I would have to get that answer. I don't know. That was.
It's been tiered for years.
Yeah, it's been tiered for years,
Yeah, it is.
but before we did the rate study, I believe in 18, it was obviously a little bit different.
It may have been 1,250 or 1,500 was your first tier, and then it moved up, but it's been 1,000.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we call the normal small household number that, since I've been on the
So
commission.
we average, if we had to take an average, we would say 1,200 kilowatt hours is what every household uses. We base it off 1,000 in a lot of terms because it's a nice whole number. You'll see, I've got a slide in a few that we tier in 3, there's some that tier 2. And so it's basically however the utility wants to do it. Most of them have 3 tiers, but there's.
Because I figure in the future, if more people, when more people have electric cars, everybody's going to be in tier 3 at some point. If you have 2-3 electric cars, in the future, it's just wondering.
Yeah, we're thinking of all those things.
So just back to the colors.
Sure.
If you could match the bar, if the bar graph is
The
in
bar
my,
graph-
if the bar graph is my consumption graph, and that's what I delve
This
into,
here?
the one on the right, like that's mine when I go into my system, right?
Correct. This is
It does not line up with, so blue
Tier
is the
colors?
highest tier,
Yeah.
Oh,
but it's the
yeah.
lowest
Those
tier
make a
on
change.
consumption. And so that's why I kept asking,
I
because I'm looking
understand.
at it and I'm like,
Can you scroll back one so I can see just that?
so if I go into my system on my
That
thing,
needs to
that's
be
gonna
orange.
throw me off.
Yeah, no. That needs to
Like it might say tier 1 there, but when I look at my bill,
It's a
that's
different
tier
color.
3.
No, we should match the bill.
Noted.
Yeah.
Noted.
So you're looking at a stacked bar is what she's asking.
No, I've got a
Yeah.
talented
Does it
team
make
to take
sense?
care of that. Absolutely.
That makes very good sense.
Well, I'm just sitting here going like,
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
why is that low on that one, but
Makes
it's
sense.
high on this one, and that's why I
And
have asked. You live in it.
Like the
yeah.
mayor said, I'm used to looking at stuff, and so that's great input. If there's stuff like that, that's very good. Very good.
Because I knew I was going to go home and look at it online, and I'm going to be like so confused.
And the tiering, to go back to that topic, on
Yes, sir.
both electric and water, we do so that people who are on fixed incomes,
Yes.
trying to survive, are paying the very, very least that they can.
Right.
And then people who are going to be consumptive by choice are going to pay more. And there's no better way to create conservation than charge people for usage.
And we serve everybody, so we want to make sure we've got a broad spectrum of things in place. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because if you break it down and take a look at your cost per kilowatt hour, there's a lot of times people won't do that, and my bill's $300, But if you look at cost per kilowatt hour, and we have a natural progression in this bill, we went from 12.1 cents to 14.2, and it stayed there because that's the fuel cost change. And then we've got another penny and a half that's going to go on there starting now. It's going to change that. It's going to go up to 15.7 cents on this bill. The less you use, it's going to change that cost per kilowatt hour. And that's the thing you can look at is what rates are doing. And with her change in the environmental charge there, that's going to, currently it would drop it below 14 cents. National average is right around 15 and a half. So it puts us in that perspective so we can take a look at that.
As a number
Sorry.
person,
Sorry. Come on up and finish.
I didn't mean.
No, it's perfect.
No, I love that,
You're speaking my language. I have to pick and choose what detail I go into, so I'm trying to keep it as good as I can. Okay, so this was, what, we at July? Are we back on July? So a 32-day cycle there. And then another, next one will be the graph for that one. So you'll see where I went from tier 2 to tier 3. We had some hotter days, you can see.
So you mentioned the 32-day cycle.
So this is June. This is June.
Talk to us about the cycles.
The cycles, all right, sensitive subject. So the cycles are in place because of manual reads, and our meter reading department does read manual meters. Those cycles have been in place since Lakeland Electric started. So we're currently reading meters for the water department, which we read and bill for them as well. So until we get them fully AMI deployed, which we are getting them on board as we speak, those billing cycles are going to remain in place. Fun fact about 33-day reads, I got some numbers here. We've had, let me see. So far this year, we've had 18 cycles come out with 33-day reads, and for September, we've got one more. Now, they scheduled their read schedule 30 days out, so I don't have anything past September. And that's based on manpower they have, because they're manually going out reading 60 to 70,000 water meters. But we're working with both departments, and when they're fully AMI deployed, same as we are, those meter cycles will change. The way I can let you pick your bill date is it's gonna be a whole lot of new options. I'm really excited.
It can be start-stop by choice.
Yeah, you want to bill on the 18th. That's when your check comes in. We can bill you on the 18th.
That would make me so happy.
Me too.
Put water on it.
Me too.
So happy.
Me too. Currently, the cycle reads are 100% based on weekends and holidays. So we've got a holiday next Monday. Guys aren't working. That pushes that read out to 33 days.
Right.
And then you look at earlier in the year with 4th of July and MLK and all those days were off. So that is 100% driving that. The quicker we can get off that, the quicker we can start saying, hey, we can open up to the on-demand, where folks pay every couple of days for their bill. It opens up a whole lot of awesome things we can really start utilizing our system. So we're getting there. We're getting there.
Commissioner Mann.
What's that?
Thank you, Mayor. And I think we were going to do kind of a cost analysis at our strategic planning retreat to kind of say, like, the manpower to check the meters and how many days that takes versus getting water to be able to, go more quickly on their, getting their smart meters. So I don't know if that would probably be a city manager.
So that's a huge lift.
Yeah, so just kind of an update on that. Bill Anderson and the water utility and Mike Beckham and I have been talking about that recently, and the water utility is getting ready to go out for an RFP for a consultant who could come in and work on bringing in a contractor to assist in the implementation of the smart meters. There's some technical difficulties we've ran into along with just staffing and the time that goes along with doing this, that it just has not gone as quickly as we had hoped it would. And so we're looking now to go outside and get some assistance to make it happen sooner.
Great, thank you.
It's not what we do.
Yeah, I've got a meeting at 2 o'clock today about that, and we're definitely doing some things. We actually had a pretty successful meeting about a month ago. We were able to move 10,000 water meters that are currently in place that are on AMI. We moved them to the AMI billing system, so they're automatically read. So what that does is my work group that's reading those meters, it frees up that much more time. So they're strategically thinking in 2 to 5 years when that is fully deployed. I'm going to be looking at vacancies and retirements and positions. I'm going to have to rework that group, and I welcome it, and I'm sure they welcome it too, but those are some of the things we're looking at.
So even cost savings on equipment needs. I mean, vehicles, we won't need as many vehicles if we're not having to go out in the field.
That's less
as much, so.
Yeah, it'll be a much different work group. We'll still have to maintain those meters, and we'll still have to maintain, but it's going to be much different. Yes, sir.
Committee Member Troutman, you go first, sir.
I think Sean answered it. I was going to ask what's driving the ability to make that switch. That's the smart meter.
Yeah, it's a complex issue. Theirs is much more labor intensive than you got to dig.
And it's in the ground.
Yeah, and they're dealing with routes, they're dealing with different things. We've got a labor shortage, all those factors. Even getting the smart meters in some of the meetings, it's the same components we use, and we've had a terrible time getting them. So it's been a combination of things. Some bad luck probably is mixed in there, so, yeah.
Question I have, Corey, is do you have any feel on the numbers of electric smart meters we don't have deployed? In other words, or is there a group of people, is there 5%?
No. I think there's around 115 that aren't smart meters. Is that what you mean? Or the water?
No, people on electric smart meters that won't have them on their house.
Yeah, it's a
small number.
It's less than 1%. Yeah, it's a very small amount. We still have to manually read those. Valid point, but that's one cycle. It's not even a. Yes, sir.
So for the electric smart meters, they're going to be powered already, but for the water smart meters.
Ours, they're now. We've had them.
They're in.
We've had them for
Right, how are
years.
they powered? You got to go out and replace batteries or?
No, it works off the.
Is it electric?
Yep. There's
System.
the system's powering it.
No, for the water meters.
Oh, the water meters?
Power.
So the water meters, I don't want to get into that conversation. It's a different bird, but yes, there are batteries involved.
So you have to replace it every.
There will be some maintenance and some things. And this capabilities of these systems, we get 1,000 different alerts. And I'm sure, I speak confidently that water meter, if it gets a low battery, they're going to know. And hey, your address has a water meter. We need to go change your battery in it.
So you'll probably have some guys full-time.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was talking about. Some of those.
Redeployment of whatever your meter readers are doing, they're changing batteries now.
We'll never get rid of that department, but it'll look a whole lot differently, staffing-wise.
Okay.
So, yep. Same thing with the call center and a lot of the business things that are evolving as we get through. We're changing how we do business, so.
Okay, regain your momentum.
Regaining my momentum. All right, so we left off in July. We got the colors. We can get that fixed. Next slide. Let's go through it. All right, this is July. Same thing for July. You see my consumption was up. My bill was higher. That's the point I'm making. I think we made it. Let's go to the next one. All right, so bill breakdown. And this is kind of where I'm getting. If I need to talk through it more, let me know. I had a spreadsheet that Catherine, she was like, I wouldn't show that because it won't make my So I'm trying to break this down. So
This is a simple group.
well,
Please.
again, and living in it, it's different. So May was only and that's the baseline. It was no tier 2. So we go to June, and everything is built off your consumption. So my total bill in June was, of course, higher because of this number. I used more energy. My fuel charge in June was still at the 0.04. So my fuel charge difference was 54. My new fuel charge was 71 for a difference of $16. So my bill was $16 more because of fuel, because of the consumption. Now, we raised the rate, and on my July bill, June consumption used even more. Look how my bill jumped even more. So at the new adder with the 0.06, my bill went to $117 for fuel. That was a $46 increase from the month before, just in fuel. All right, but it was also a higher consumption rate. Now, we go to August, and we went on vacation. I can't even tell you specifically what we did. This doesn't happen usually for me. We actually consumed less that month. My bill went down. Fuel rate was the same. And the difference in the fuel rate, of course, the consumption was almost the same. Now, I've got some numbers here that you guys won't have if we want to get into it, but if we had this fuel rate for these 2 months, it was about a $39 difference for this month and about a $38 difference for this month. So this number right here was $38, made my bill $38 more for those 2 months. Okay? But my biggest driver is this number right here. So, next, tier 3, let's talk about tier 3 pricing. Your tiers are built off your total consumption, right? The first 1,000, 1,001 to 1,500, and then 1,500 and above, okay? So, that was, my second tier price, of course, is the same for 1,500. $29.10. So my third tier price, I used 228 more. That price there was $17.18. All right, then we go to July, consumed a little more. My third tier price for that was $29.71. Now, let's imagine, let's eliminate third tier pricing altogether. We're just gonna keep tier 1 and tier 2. What's the difference? Because everybody sees tier 3 and they're, oh, I'm in tier 3. So if we priced this kilowatt hour at tier 2 pricing, you see the difference? $16, it's $1.70 difference for me to go to tier 3. For this month, it was $2.83, and for that month, it was $2.62, and I actually saved a little bit. So the tier 3 pricing, why it's, everybody sees their consumption goes into tier 3. Now, if you're in tier 3 at day 15, you've got some consumption issues. And we live, I've got, there's 3 of us in the house, but I've got kids coming home from college. They were here all summer. And wife's throwing parties, and we're doing our, we live, okay?
Pay the piper.
And that's, what's that?
You gotta pay the piper.
Yes, sir. Well, there's a lot to that. Yes, sir. So that's a little bit of a breakdown of the tier pricing. I don't want it to be a fear to anybody. Is it something you want to look at? Absolutely. If you need to, kind of go into your consumption and make sure you don't go into tier 2 if you are affected that much, then absolutely. But we have the tools in place for you to track that. What's our next slide? Go to the next. Any questions on this one? Did I explain it okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Next one's a little bit of a breakdown. And we talked about tier pricing and how they're done. So the first number here next to each group, and it's just surrounding, and I could have gotten all 35, 38 utilities, but the customer charges for each utility. We had some customers that were really questioning what we're charging, and you can see, TECO's customer charge is 21, OUC's is 15, $12.45, $15, ours is 11. Then you look at tiers, you can see what they're charging. Gainesville has a 2-tier system for $8.50 and then above. Duke, you can see what they're charging. It's self-explanatory. And I will add that TECO's customer charge, which our conservation charge is built into it, they add their customer charge adds their conservation charge into it. So it's usually $2.50 a month. So right there off their websites, it's welcome to anybody to see. All this is wide open. Information for everybody. Just some added. I'm not saying one's better, one's worse. I'm not saying, we're the best. I think we should be in the middle, which I think we are.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
And the combination of being low in terms of our kilowatt hours and the fact that our taxes remain low in addition to that, because we get a 31 million plus contribution back, which is almost the same as the property taxes that are raised by millage. Okay, so, if you don't feel like, so if the high energy costs relative to past are burdensome, recognize a portion of that you can attribute to the fact that that's going to be paid back to the city for utilization of parks and recs and all the other things that we do. And so, at least there's an easing in the fact of understanding, and we still have a low kilowatt-hour charge.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Control.
If I may, I want to just applaud the customer service department. I know when we had some years back the challenges with our bills, and we wanted to make it more user-friendly, so people understand. I think we've accomplished that, even with some added attractions that came out as a result.
Right.
So I think from Dave Cuss days to now your days.
Yes, sir.
I can say, I hear customers saying, rather than saying, they can understand their bill better now.
Yeah.
When they look at it and they can figure it out and show the breakdowns as it should.
Yeah.
You've done a lot to do that, I know, over the last few years of late.
We are constantly looking at that. As a matter of fact, and I'll do a little commercial here for my team, because you guys know I came from operations. I came up, I've been here for 20 years. Was a lineman, was in operations management. So I bring an operations type mentality. I like to dig into things and get them fixed, and then we work on things after they're fixed. So I've been blown away at my team, at what they do. I've I've talked with him several times about, some of the programs, and nobody in our building wants anybody to be without electricity. Nobody, we have so many people that are, we're getting services from the outside, the charity services. We're always looking for somebody. If you guys bring us something, we're going to do our best to make sure we provide service and get help for those folks. They do an amazing job of that. Plus, they are always forward-looking. I've got a team that's looking at these bills constantly, and the Cooper and the website. We've got some real exciting things coming towards the end of the year. We will be getting rid of the kiosk. Don't know how you guys feel about that, but we will be introducing that with it's called a retail cash program, where this code here is for the kiosk. You can scan it. We're going to be moving that, repurposing some of these numbers I think are kind of redundant, but you're going to be able to go to Walmart, Walgreens, 60 retail outlets, and if you're paying for your groceries, you give them your bill, add it in, and it's instantly on your electric bill. So we're doing some things to give more folks easier ways to pay. We know we've got challenges. We're not perfect by any means, but we try to address those, and we're always trying to think of better ways to provide programs to folks. We've done an amazing job with our rebate program. It's been a huge push for the summer to get off this right here, a paper bill. It's a huge expense to us. So we're up to, I want to say we're close to 80. I haven't got the numbers for this month, but we're close to 80%, 78% of our customer base is on paperless billing, which is amazing. I talked to Gainesville yesterday. They're 18%. So for anybody in our area, we're doing an amazing job. And it's that team. It's not me. I've been here 3 months. But, yeah, I can't take any credit for that. But it's a combination of a fresh look and what they're able to do. So any other comments or questions?
Committee Member English.
Corey,
Yes, sir.
we talked the other day, and I appreciate your customer service team. I had to reinitiate one of my rentals. And the people on the phone now are very friendly. It takes a little while sometimes to get in, but that's okay. But once you get in and you discuss with them what you're needing to do, they're very open to understand what your needs are. And I gave you guys' name and compliment him. But the other thing is, in the last 8 days, we've had 2 power outages in our area. And the text message comes in within 10 minutes that your power's out. And it gives you an estimated time, which I really appreciate. Because my next door neighbor's got to call me. Power out too, because my power's out. And I said, I got the text message, and they expect it to be back in 2 hours.
Yes.
Well, one was a jack was blown. Yesterday, a tree fell on the line.
Exactly.
So
It happens, right?
yeah, so,
It happens.
but it told me when it was going to go, and it told me when it was re-energized, because with our home in North Carolina, we get the same thing from Duke, and I ain't there.
Yeah.
But, okay, the power's out. I don't care, I'm not there.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be re-energized in 2 hours. Okay, no big deal.
Yep.
So it gets redone. But I just want to compliment your team for
They do. They're awesome. I agree.
because my cell phone number is on our account.
Exactly.
That's how they give me the information. My next door neighbor, I've got to tell her, get her cell number on the account.
Did you call the second time? Did you call yesterday? Because we had that conversation, and I said, if I can get folks we know your power's out. Our AMI system's fantastic. Now, a storm and a hurricane, don't call either, because we know your power's out. But we're trying to change that message. We've got a really good system, and those calls inundating when a power outage, it's good. We're glad you're calling, but we know you're out. And when he called, I said, well, did you call him? He says, yeah. I said, well, you got the text, but I think it was after. But we've got those things in place. We're expanding that. We do still run into issues with the contact number, so we try to get that message out to customers anytime they call. Call and update your information. Let's get that in there. So we've got, we're contacting customers before cutoffs. Great story. 48 hours before we cut your power for non-payment, we're sending you a text. Hey, you got a payment issue. No information, don't link, no spam, nothing like that. But that person's triggered. Hey, okay, we're going to be cut off in 2 days. And we've seen those payments just rush in. Our cuts have been cut Probably in half. It depends. It fluctuates, but it's a good service because we give them, I think we give them.
It is an effective collections program, there's no question.
Well, it's not collections, it's just an alert.
No, I mean, being able to cut power off is an effective collection.
You are correct. You are correct. Anybody else got anything?
Well,
I'll stand up here and talk all day.
We solicit that information to get people's texts in some way at all. In other words, the people,
Yeah, 'cause I don't have that.
yeah, I don't think I do
I don't
either.
have it. For outage?
Information.
Yeah, outage.
Yes.
Yes, so we have lots of text alerts that are available, including billing alert, which I think talks to, actually, I think it was Commissioner Music's point about not wanting to wait till the end of the bill to
Yes.
get the alert on that.
Oh, I get that one.
We're auto-enrolled for outage notification, so if you have your correct cell phone number in our system, you will get it. For bill alerts, there's an FCC rule that prevents us from doing that, so you have to sign up.
Correct.
We can only send you a text message in emergency unless you request one.
But you can get like she said, at 15 days, hey, your bills, you're looking at this average for the month.
Yeah,
I get one every
get that.
month.
I get that one. I get one of those.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I've ever seen the text on power outage, so.
You had one.
Okay.
My mom answered, I mailed mine first.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Good to know. All right. Yeah, so, go ahead.
Just a suggestion, it's not always financially feasible, but I was one of those guys, I got used to paper bills from my cell phone carrier. And I don't know if the numbers will add up, but for the remainder of them, if you just offer some kind of discount, that's what usually transition means, like $5 off my bill, maybe for 3 months or 6 months. Because that might be all you need to convert the remainder of the groups.
Okay, so let's go back to June 1st. July 1st? June 1st? July 1st. So in the middle of June, that was a big one of mine. I'm getting into my new position, and I'm looking over, and I'm looking down numbers, and there was one really large one, and that was what it cost for the envelopes and the paper and the print and the color and all this stuff. And then we got a 3% adder from the vendor because of everything's going up, and I said, holy cow, what can we do? We got to get them on paper. So July 1st, we started a program where we gave everybody $25 to go paperless, and that's a less than 2-year return for me. I'll do it all day long, and so we finally paused it August 31st. Between the 2 months, we rebated around
We added about 2,000 customers.
2,000 customers. It was about 49,000 in rebates we gave on that program.
How did they know?
Advertisement.
Advertisement on social media, advertisement on Google, on our website, on our banner. It was
Word of mouth.
word of
Was it
mouth,
on-
our
was it on the
call
bill? Was it on the bill?
center. Yeah, was it on
So it's residential, there's some caveats, right? We got to talk about that, residential only, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we saw a great response, and we just paused it. We're getting ready to end of FY, so we paused it, let everything catch up, and we always have the option of rolling that back out. But that's exactly what we did. We incentivized it, and it worked. It worked. Great point.
And 2,000 is good, but you'd think you could get more, you know?
Well, it took us from 63% to almost 80%, so I'll take it.
Okay.
78%, give or take. Like I said, those numbers are still coming in. So.
Hold out for 250, Sarah.
Because it doesn't line up with when I pay my other bills, and that's why I get the paper one, because it's my trigger. I'm gonna do it if you give me $25 off.
You missed the deadline.
All right. Seeing no other items, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you for that informative meeting. Appreciate it. We're adjourned.
Very good.